All right, we're live. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday, not Monday. Welcome to the pregame.
Yeah, that threw me off yesterday as I was trying to catch a stream for you guys. And no, it's President's Day.
That's right. And
the kids didn't have school. At least the public schools they didn't. I know Lincoln Christian had school, so maybe some of the private schools did. And absolutely no disrespect to anybody that's held that position of office. But, in the whole balance of powers, to be fair, shouldn't we have a Congress Day and then also the Supreme Court Day?
Hey, if it means more days off.
More days off, right.
Damn right we should.
Well, we didn't. I remember we didn't get President's Day off when I was in school. Now, granted, there had probably only been about 7 or 8 presidents at that time back when I was in school.
Right.
I think either Madison or Monroe was just finishing up their term.
Well, I think we should keep having President's Day off. I just think we should move it a week ahead, because if we get the Monday after the Super Bowl off, why we have a Monday off the week after the Super Bowl doesn't make sense to me.
And I had heard that they had talked about that because, the Super Bowl doesn't start till, almost 6 o'clock Central Time. And, it's a big thing. That they had talked about even moving the Super Bowl. I know it's Super Bowl Sunday, but the day of the week still starts with an S. It could still roll off the tongue of Super Bowl Saturday.
I agree.
If you put on Saturday, then that gives people, some recovery time instead of dragging into work that next Monday morning, just absolutely full of beverages and queso dip.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to be the janitor in those bathrooms on Monday.
It sounds awful.
Right.
It sounds awful.
Because, when you throw in some of the meatballs with the toothpicks and the little smokies and probably the 7-layer salad.
Cheese dip, like you said.
It's going to, it spirals from there.
Right. Well, Few is back today. Hooks will be back tomorrow. And we have a good show coming up. We're going to talk Husker baseball. They open the weekend. 2 kind of disappointing endings in 2 of those games. We'll have Washut on, Bryan Munson. We got a good show coming up. Still feels like a Monday.
Yeah, for me, if I had to work yesterday, so
no, you did.
I'm in Tuesday mode. I don't know if there's that big of a difference, though.
I had a dream last night that I met Mark Wahlberg. Pretty cool, huh?
Not Donnie?
No, it was Mark.
Yeah.
He was walking down the street, and I shook his hand.
And I was like, hey, Emilio! And he just tipped his cap.
It's a terrible movie.
Was that Night at Roxbury?
Yeah.
Emilio.
It's an okay movie for its time. It doesn't really hold up well.
Are you guys brothers? No. Yes.
Have a club outside. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was like their idea. They wanted to have a club outside.
They did. Dewey. Sir, Dewey just called from Malaysia and said there was no way possible.
God. That movie gets referenced way too much, I think.
More than Christmas Vacation?
Yeah, not as much as that. Ernesto's in early. Dang, looks like Hooks had a good time. He looks better.
Upgrade.
He thinks you look like Hooks.
It's the lack of just for men that kind of makes us look alike.
Sure.
Where did Hooks go again?
Yeah,
he went down. Where exactly in Florida did he go?
He's in Florida. I still don't exactly know.
When's he coming home?
Tomorrow.
Yes.
He's coming back today.
I'm coming home. I'm coming home.
Tell the world I'm coming home. Should we just have a karaoke show today? Just scrap all the interviews and just sing for the listeners?
Yeah, and then by the end of the show, you'll have three subscribers left.
You're right. It's not going to go down well. Yeah. All right. I'm going to start the show. Sit tight.
This is the Morning Hookup on KFOR.
Shamalama, ding dong, baby.
What's going on? Welcome into the Morning Hookup.
Don't be afraid to sing along.
Hey. Otis Day in the Nights. Great way to open the show on a Tuesday. Hope everything is going okay with you out there. Hope your weekend was good. Some of you had the 3-day weekend.
Some of us didn't.
Some of you didn't. If you did, I hope you had a good 3-day weekend. Welcome into the show. Bill Hooks will be back tomorrow. He is on his way home from Florida today. Hopefully he had a good time. It looked like he did, although it sounded like it rained a lot when he was down in Florida, which I'm sure sucks. Like, why would you go to Florida when it's raining?
Sure.
You know, it seems like
up here in during winter, it's hard to get disgruntled about rain because you don't have to shovel rain, which is nice.
You're right. So, yeah, he ran into a lot of rain down there. Sucks for him, but I'm sure he enjoyed Florida. You and I have been chilling here in L-Town for the past few days. How was your weekend?
It wasn't too bad. And, I think it's supposed to be, mid-60s here today.
Mid-60s?
Yeah, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah, I think so.
Sounds amazing.
Right. So we'll take that. Still in February.
That is Matthew Malone, by the way, for everybody listening. He joined me last Thursday. He's back again today. You can follow him with Husker Army on Facebook. Do that, like the page and all that good stuff.
You know what the back half of February means? College baseball. Full swing.
And we will be talking Husker baseball here in a few minutes. We had the series down in Arlington over the weekend. They got a win and a couple losses. We do have some interviews coming up today. Robin Washut will join the show here in about 20 minutes, and then Bryan Munson will join the show as well. We'll talk Husker recruiting with him. If there's anything really, we're kind of in that point right now where recruiting is very dead, right? There's not a lot going on, but Bryan always has stuff to talk about, so we'll have Bryan on the show, and we'll get to stories we missed as well. I do want to talk about the NBA All-Star game from over the weekend, if you could even call it that.
Did you get a chance to see my Facebook post?
I did.
Spot on.
I think you're spot on. We'll talk about that. There's a lot of talk if this thing should just be done, if they should just never do it again. And I think there's a solid argument there. We'll talk about that coming up a little later in the show. Open phones. Call in if you want. 402-489-1240. Of course, we're streaming on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Ernesto's in. Christian is even in today. He's up early. So you can watch us if you want as well. All right, Thew. Over the weekend, Nebraska baseball started things off. It was fun because on Friday, we kept talking about how you had to subscribe to this Flow Sports thing to watch the games, and they had a free preview on Twitter. So if you're on Twitter, you could watch the game for free, which was kind of cool.
All three of them?
Just the first one.
Okay.
Just the first one. And hey, they go out and get a 4-1 win over Baylor. They were down a majority of that game, a couple big hits, gets them back, and they opened the season with a 4-1 win over Baylor.
Yeah, it was absolutely a great way to start the season. Baylor's not quite what they used to be 20 years ago. Baylor was a top 10 program back in the day. They were always, in the tournament, chance to go to Omaha for the College World Series. Often you'll hear us talk about, the Southern programs when it comes to baseball, because unlike the vast majority of the sports, obviously the weather dictates that sport and softball as well, more than any of the others. You can go out and play football when it's cold, snowing, wet, but baseball you can't. We talk about how a lot of these kids down there, they go, the real good kids go these Southern schools, get to play year round.
Yep.
And so if you've taken a notice to Nebraska's scheduling the last few years, especially since they've joined the Big Ten, you'll see us go to these early season tournaments, whether it be in California or down to Texas, with a chance to play some of these good teams, and you hopefully want to win some too, because that's going to help your RPI. Because, let's make no bones about it. When it comes time for conference play, the RPI of the Big Ten conference itself is not very high. Right. So the self-cannibalization there. So these are very important games. Nebraska comes out Friday night. They take care of business, and we were all excited to see, because you had a lot of newcomers on this team. How is it all going to fit together? On paper, you brought in these recruiting classes. This junior college recruiting class is supposed to be really well. And like you said, they got that 4-1 victory. But then what happened, on the next two games?
In that win on that first game, you liked what you saw from Sears, who got the start. He had some really good stuff. And then you had Casey, I think it's Dice, who came in to close. I really liked what I saw from him. So yeah, Friday was a great all around performance, and then Saturday and Sunday you go into the ninth inning with a lead, and especially against Oklahoma, you had a big lead, and well, they come back and walk you off both games, and you lose back to back when you had a lead. That's just really sucks to see.
Right. In the second game, we had a chance, and we were actually the home team playing number 21 ranked Texas Tech, and you were up. I mean, it's not for the national title, but usually these preseason rankings do hold a little bit of merit based on what teams return, how they're supposed to look. So here you are, a chance during a 3-game set, playing all your former friends from the Big 12, with a chance to go down there and really make a statement. And we can look at this, the whole silver lining thing, or what could have been, but I think the important thing is that all weekend we were competitive. We didn't get our doors blown off. The starting pitching for the most part, especially this early, because you're not going to see many guys go really more than six innings just this early, because you don't want arm problems and whatnot. But it was the manner of which we lost games 2 and 3. Will, like what you talked to in the ninth inning, both games. You had a chance. You had a chance to get out of there 3-0 against 3 Big 12 teams. I mean, just imagine what that could have done, to the team's psyche, rolling into this weekend's tournament, coming up against a 4-game set against Grand Canyon. But you have to at least be a little bit happy that your team can compete against these teams that perennial year in and year out are going to be in the thick of things. They may have some drop off from here to here, but you're playing a ranked team, Baylor and Oklahoma, who's always there. I think it was in the manner of letting those games slip away, and I'm sure that's going to be a spot of emphasis moving forward this week, is how do we close those games out? What do we need to do to slam the door to not give these games away in that ninth inning?
I think it was motivating. Like you said, starting pitching, I think, was on there all weekend long. I think Casey's, again, I wish I knew how to say his last name.
I think it's Dice.
Is it Dice?
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a solid option. Good closer coming in this year.
Well, he had a great outing against Baylor. They brought him in that Oklahoma game, and then the wheels fall off. But such is the life of being a closer.
It's tough, I'm sure.
And, and they were trying to get him into there. And, well, neither you and I are baseball coaches at the collegiate level. So, we don't have all the information. But as fans, we can sit there, whether doesn't matter what sport it is, and I would have done this or I would have done that. And of course, it's just all hearsay.
You don't know what I do on my off time.
You're right. But you don't know if they were trying to get a certain amount of guys, a certain amount of innings pitched just to give them that experience, because especially in that Oklahoma game, you brought out Kyle Froelich, and man, he pitched 1 inning just absolutely lights out, and then he was done. Now, and maybe this is the plan early on in the season is, hey, you're going to throw an inning, the next guy's going to throw an inning, which I get, but at the same time, these are games you're trying to win for RPI purposes. At the end of the year, I think more so you're probably going to ride that hot hand and not see them pulling out pitchers who had an excellent inning. That was frustrating. I'm like, because baseball is such a game of what ifs. Well, if you'd have left him in, they might not have scored that run, this and that. But
and especially in that Oklahoma game, there were some errors. You made some errors in that ninth inning that brought in some runs. So it wasn't all on pitching.
Right.
There were some errors the field made. So yeah, you're 1-2 heading into this 4-game series with Grand Canyon, who, by the way, had a great opening weekend. They sweep. They played in the MLB Desert Invitational. They got wins over Georgetown, USC, and BYU. So they're coming in hot. They have yet to lose a game. And like you said, 4-game series that starts on Thursday. Wow, Grand Canyon, they are not afraid to play anybody. They got Ohio State on Tuesday, just as in a 1-game standalone game. So
it's a newer program.
Sure.
I think their softball team might have made the College World Series for softball, really? or like maybe like a regional final. They were really up there in the last year or two. We were kind of talking before the show started. Beautiful campus, kind of enclosed there in the middle of Phoenix, and they've got great facilities. And for those kids that, you can only have so many people on a baseball roster. And let's make no mistake about it, just down the road is Arizona State. what kid in that area doesn't want to go play baseball at Arizona State? I mean, that's where Barry Bonds and Dave Winfield play. I mean, their jersey numbers are still hanging in the outfield. I mean, it's great. But if you're a quality baseball player in that area and you can't get in there, Grand Canyon, all of a sudden, they've got a program going right there in the middle of town.
It wasn't, I would say it was motivating this opening weekend. You saw some good things. You saw more good than bad.
I believe so. And especially in that lineup. Remember we talked about this, I think, last week. When Bryce and Max weren't coming up, we're sitting there, oh gosh, how many more batters before one of those guys get up again? And you don't necessarily feel that way this year, 1 through 9, because even your 9 hitter with Ryder, I mean, your starting center fielder, great table setter. I mean, he had a great weekend. Your number 2 hitter, your third baseman, switch hitting Overbeek, that guy had a great 3-game series. And of course, the guy that you're going to lean on a lot to kind of fill in that spot, help me out here, Dylan, the guy you're moved over to shortstop, great series as well. So, and we're still waiting for a few of those new guys to kind of show what they can do, like a Tyler Stone, stuff like that. So, good opening weekend, but I think our best ball is definitely still ahead of us.
I agree. Before we take a break, per the listener's request, Christian chimes in. Last night was dart night at Tavern on the Square. We always like to recap dart night with you. And if I could, what's the word I'm looking for? If I could brag a little bit, self-brag a little bit.
You go right ahead.
We opened, the first game was 301, right? 301 in darts. You know what I'm talking about.
That's where the countdown to 0?
That's right.
Okay.
I was absolutely on fire. I threw 7 darts and closed 301. A 7-darter.
Nice.
I don't think you realize how hard that is.
That's probably a couple right there in the middle red, isn't it?
It is. Oh, more than that. Yeah. Christian says, toot your own horn. I will. You saw it. He was there. He saw that. It was the coolest thing I've ever done. And I once sat first class on a plane. This was the coolest thing I've ever done. 7-darter. Now, we ended up losing the match 2-3. But I'm telling you, that was the coolest thing I've ever done.
Help me out. How do you decide? Because I'm by far not the connoisseur of darts. I've tinkered when you go into a bar and stuff like that.
You're a karaoke guy. I know that.
You're right. I know that you can choose different games on that machine. Like you said, the 301, and there's different one. Is that assigned in advance, or is that randomized? Do you do the same ones every week, or how is that decided?
Yep. Same games every week.
Okay.
You play 5 games, 301, 501, 701, cricket, and wild card cricket.
Okay.
All right, you get it? And so 301 was our first game, and 7 darts, and I was out of there. I don't even think Christian's ever done that, and he's the best dart player I know. Don't tell Justin I said that. So I had to toot my own horn there a little bit. And thank you for listening.
No, I appreciate it. When I was a kid, we had yard darts.
And before the FDA came in or whatever organization banned them.
You can still find some with the finely tuned metal tips.
You just need to be careful.
Right.
Vodka doesn't mix well with
yard darts.
Yard darts, because you could have a manslaughter charge on your arsenal. All right, good. Well, Husker baseball will continue on Thursday. They start that 4-game series with Grand Canyon. Let's take a break. Come back. We'll have Robin Washut on the show. We'll talk about the win over Penn State. We got Indiana tomorrow night. Time's running out, and depending on what side you're on, you're either nervous or you're confident about making that tournament. We'll see how Robin's feeling when we come back. Don't go away.
You're listening to the Morning Hookup with Bill Hooks and Will Wilson. More coming up.
Christian says we play butt darts around the house.
I don't think that's sanctioned.
Christian, though, that was pretty cool, right? I know it's hard to say that because we ended up losing the game 2-3. But 7 darts.
So what, like the Tavern in the Square, that's your home. Is the whole league there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I know back when I was in a pool league for a while, you had like an establishment that sponsored you. and like one week you would play at your place, and then the next week you played like Joe's Tavern, and you would go there and shoot pool and
Yeah.
in the league, and you had like home and away games almost.
It was that is a thing. There's a city dart league, and I think it's on Thursdays, and people travel around and play at different spots. Claire, thank you. It is very impressive. I felt so cool. You
Is
have
that
no
your
idea.
sister?
That's my sister, Claire.
Okay.
Christian says, I didn't realize you lost. Yeah, 7 dart out is for real. Yeah, we did.
Now you and Claire are twins, right?
No, that's Maggie is my twin
Maggie's
sister.
your twin.
Yeah, Claire is my older sister.
She's older.
Yes.
All right. I'd be interested if Claire got to hear the intro song.
Claire, did you hear it? She knows that movie.
Well, I would hope so.
That's our family.
Well, more
movie.
importantly, the movie. I mean, but to hear that song played by a live band. I mean, no band knows how to play that song like Lost and Found.
That's right. She says I did. Yeah. You heard Dad's band play that a couple times. Claire and I once sang with our dad's band.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's actually the singer of the family.
I've sang with a band once. It was totally unplanned. It was during a break. They asked if it was like open mic, and I asked this guy. I said, "I just need you to do this hi-hat," and then I asked the bass guy to just play the background beat to David Bowie's "Under Pressure" over and over again. And I got up there on stage and did Ice Ice Baby with a band. It was totally unplanned.
I know that's your go-to karaoke.
It was
song.
crazy.
I've seen videos on Facebook of you singing that song.
Yeah. Does that age well?
I
mean, most people these days don't even know who that is anymore.
Yeah. I think
I'm gonna have to have another. I need a new go-to song.
It's aging slowly.
All right.
It still holds.
Unlike me, who's aging quickly.
Don't say that. Don't say that. Well, we got Robin coming up. We'll see how this goes. Penn State played some of the worst basketball I've ever seen on Saturday.
Even more so than Michigan.
Ooh, Michigan was bad.
But but why are those teams playing bad though? Is it a combination of how we play at home with our defense and the crowd?
Possibly. We play really good at home.
We do. Minus Creighton.
Christian's wondering, can we get a karaoke rip from Theo at next break? I think we can. He would do it too. All right, I'm going to get Robin on the phone.
All right.
Welcome back into the morning hookup. Happy Tuesday. Keep having to remind myself it's not Monday. We got Robin Washut with HuskerOnline.com right now joining the show. Robin, what's going on? You got me okay?
I got you. What's happening?
My man, nothing. Bill Hooks is still gone. I think he's traveling back from Florida as we speak. It's kind of bittersweet because I heard they got a lot of rain down there.
Well, that's just one of his many private jet vacations that, he takes. So he can stand to have a little bit of inclement weather. It's going to even out eventually for him.
I think so. And he told me he was trying to quit dip. What a time to quit dip on a vacation.
Yeah, I guess. At least he understands his vices and he's working towards being a better person.
Yeah. We got Robin Washut on the show. Robin, let's start with Saturday. Penn State comes to town and Nebraska gets it done. You could definitely tell it was an 11 a.m. tip. I thought it was kind of a slow first 10 to 15 minutes, but Nebraska gets the win. What did you like from Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, the offense in the first half was pretty awful and on both ends. Just kind of an ugly game, like you said, where it looked like both teams had just rolled out of bed and tried to play basketball. But in the second half, Nebraska really got it going offensively, and the ball movement and overall efficiency looked the way, it looked more like it was supposed to look. But the reason they won that game and did so convincingly was because of the defensive effort from start to finish, to where even though they were struggling with the ball, their play defensively allowed them to kind of stay in control of that game through the majority. And so that kind of a lesson that I'm sure every coach in the country, including Fred Hoiberg, tries to preach to their guys is there's going to be days and nights when the shots aren't falling, and for whatever reason you're missing baskets you usually make, but you can't let that impact your effort on the defensive end, because if you play high level defense, that's one thing you can control. You can't always control whether or not the bounce is going to go your way and the ball is going to go through the hoop, but you can control how aggressive and attentive you are defensively, and that's what Nebraska did. They were able to kind of play through their offensive struggles early because of their defense, and eventually figured it out on the other end and turned into a pretty lopsided victory.
Robin, we looked back before that Penn State game. We had 6 games left, 3 home, 3 away, as being a crucial stretch as far as Nebraska's postseason hopes, seeding, stuff like that. And we looked at that, and I know you can't always take it as the golden rule, but all 6 of those teams were below you in the standings, below you in the Ken Palm, the net, all that stuff. So on paper, those were definitely winnable games. There's no more Wisconsins and Purdue's on that schedule, and they went out and they got win one out of the way. Up next tomorrow night at Indiana, it starts the final 5 stretch of the games on the schedule, all of which are opponents that you've seen before. But now we go on to that road, which well documented, our troubles on the road. But what can Nebraska do, look back as far as that first game versus Indiana, and take away from that to be successful tomorrow night on the road?
Well, you talk about defense again. The reason Nebraska won that game is because they flustered Indiana from start to finish. I think Indiana had like 19 turnovers, and it was like a 26-7 discrepancy and points off turnovers. So that's one thing. Fred Hoiberg always says defensive rebounding and turnovers are always the 2 biggest keys. Well, that's especially true in this one. And since the Nebraska, for one, they have to take care of the ball on the road. If you look at their road issues, that's been right up there towards the top. But also, Indiana's a team that their guard play has really struggled. They've been without Xavier Johnson, their senior point guard, for a while now, and even when he plays, he struggled. So they've been relying on that Cup kid who's a freshman, and they really don't have much perimeter. Got a good front court, but when it comes to bringing the ball up, initiating the offense, and shooting from behind the arc, they've really struggled as much as any team in the country, or at least in the Big Ten. So that's an advantage Nebraska has to exploit. They have to have a convincing advantage on 3-point shots. They have to win the turnover margin, and they have to just make life difficult for those guards to get the ball inside to those talented bigs that they have. And if they do that, that's exactly what they did the last time around, and they blew Indiana out of the water. So, Indiana's one of those teams, like you said, where you look at these road games. Yeah, Nebraska's had issues on the road, but I would say all 3 of these remaining road games are winnable, where Nebraska's either going to be favored to win, or it's going to be one of those coin flip types of games. And so this is a real good opportunity where you got some momentum. You've won 2 in a row, looked really good in the process, and now you can once again have a chance to try to take that home success onto the road. And I think once you get that first conference road win, suddenly it's not an issue anymore. You don't have that goose egg hanging over your head to where everybody's like pointing to that as the biggest point of your resume, as opposed to all your success. You eliminate that, and I think that's a burden lifted off your shoulders. And to get that done with 2 road games still to go is pretty significant, just because Ohio State, yeah, they just beat Purdue, but they're a team that's kind of going through their issues. And then, of course, Michigan, who's the worst team in the conference. There's no reason, if Nebraska plays the way it's capable of playing, that they can't win all 3 of those road games and really kind of put any of that can't win away from PBA talk to bed for good.
We're talking to Robin Washut with HuskerOnline.com. I hate to kind of think about this, but what does a loss do tomorrow night? If we lose tomorrow night, is it that big a hit?
No, it's just another missed opportunity. They'll get punished, but then again, they'll have other opportunities to do that. And I still, whether they're at 18 wins right now, I still think if you get 3 the next 5, you're in a really, really good spot going into the Big Ten tournament. If you win 2 of the next 5, you got some work to do probably in Minneapolis. So, I think that they're still in a good spot. And, again, I look at this more as an opportunity to be had than a consequence to be suffered. Just because, went on the road in the Big Ten's hard. Yeah, Indiana's have their struggles, but still Indiana, still going to Assembly Hall and trying to win in one of the most historic venues in college basketball. So it's, if anything, I'd chalk it up as one of those games where if they lost, it would be disappointing because of the opportunity that it presented, but it wouldn't be a season defining, oh no, we're not going to make the postseason now type of game. So, but definitely if you win it, like I said, there's a pretty good ripple effect of building that momentum in a big way.
Robin, I know that the team, it's one game at a time, but for folks like us, we can always afford to look a little bit of ahead. And I've always had this question, because with the whole COVID year and stuff like that, sometimes I get confused. You see different reports on how old guys are or what they have. I want to say I know for sure that Boogie Coleman, Casey, and Josiah are done as far as eligibility after this year. But what about Rink and Bryce and even Juwan Gary? Do those guys have another year if they want it? Because that would make me very happy when looking how that roster is going to be assembled for next season.
Yeah, Casey, Josiah, and Boogie are the only ones done for sure.
Okay.
Everybody else can come back. Because now those guys, just like Casey over the past couple of years, like Rink's going to have opportunities to play professionally. And he's going to have some money that he's going to have to turn down. So the good news is with Rink, with CJ, with Juwan, those guys, that'll be their second transfer. So they would need to get a waiver to do that, or they would have to graduate. And I'm not sure exactly where those guys stand academically, but that's just another factor involved there. But here's the deal. I don't know why they would want to go anywhere else. If they're not jumping to go pro, I don't know if transferring is really that much of an issue as long as Nebraska's NIL steps up to the table, which I have no reason to think it won't. There's been a really big uptick in just the support for basketball on the NIL front. And as long as those guys are taken care of and they don't want to kind of turn the page to their professional careers, there's a pretty good opportunity to, be in a spot that you're familiar with and you're comfortable and playing big roles, but you're also going to be really good. If they bring back all but those 3 seniors and then add the guys that they're bringing in with Janowski and Frager and whatever else to fill out the roster, Nebraska is going to be like right up there in the top quarter of the Big Ten, the preseason projections next year. Just because of the returning production and what they've proven so far this year. So a lot of positives for those guys when it comes to weighing their options about coming to Nebraska. So we'll see. You never know what guys are going to do, what opportunities are going to be available for them. But I'd say right now the biggest threat for the main guys that you mentioned is, whether or not they're done playing college basketball and just want to start making professional money, or if they want to come back and take this thing to the next level in Nebraska.
Robin, just a little bit of a tail off of that. I know that Ramel and Blaze both started the year with some injuries. I don't know for sure, but I want to say that Blaze still had maybe a red shirt afforded to him. But Ramel, if I remember correctly, redshirted last year. I see him out there warming up. Are either of those guys, could they be called upon if needed?
Probably Blaze if it was a real emergency, but they've had real emergencies and they still didn't play them. So I don't know. That's kind of what the last update kind of stopped asking about is because I don't know. The fact that he's not healthy now, you honestly got to wonder if he's ever going to be healthy. And that's just always going to be a thing with him is kind of take what you can get. But yes, he does have a red shirt available. I know that has been, discussed as a potential option, but I don't think any firm decision has been made on that. I think it's probably going to come down to, for this season, like I said, I'm not holding my breath on seeing either of those guys, and I for sure don't expect to see Ramel. I mean, the fact that he didn't play against Michigan when Nebraska cleared out, like Henry Burt was getting minutes and scoring. Ramel Lloyd didn't play. So, like, you know, you kind of take it for what it is. Like, I think the writing's on the wall with that one. But with Blaze, he does have the opportunity to redshirt. He does have another year of eligibility, which, you know, if you're Nebraska, to be able to just have another depth piece next season, you know, there's some appeal there. But, you know, I think they'll kind of figure all that stuff out after the year when they see what the rest of their roster looks like, and just kind of have some long conversations about Blaze, about you know, what he wants his future to go going forward.
Robin, we appreciate your time as always, man. Thanks for Tuesday. Enjoy this nice weather, okay?
You too, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, Robin.
Thank you.
Follow him on Twitter at Robin Washut, and of course, read all of his pregame. He'll be dropping his tomorrow before the Indiana game. And like you said, he kind of sounded a little confident in that one, but I am very low confident in that game.
I want to say that his confidence comes from the level that Nebraska can play at, and I think that your unconfidence, shall we say, probably comes from what we've seen from Nebraska on the road so far. So what's going to happen? Are we going to continue to play different Nebraska basketball like we have outside of PBA, or are we going to get our business in order and play a road game like we play when we're in the friendly confines of PBA? We shall see.
We shall see. Let's take a break, come back. We'll switch gears, go to Husker football recruiting. We got Bryan Munson with HuskerOnline.com joining the show, and we come back.
More next on the Morning Hookup on KFOR.
Yeah, man, until I see a road win, I just can't be confident in this team going on the road and getting a win. So why I haven't picked us to win a road game all year.
And what's unfortunate, though, if you look back, ample opportunities, like the Minnesota game, like that was just bizarre how that second half unraveled. You had that game in control. You should have won the Rutgers game, which is always just a weird matchup. It seems like whenever we play them, I don't know.
We don't match up well with them. I mean, I'm even scared for them coming to PBA.
Right. But you had that game, and, you know, officiating aside, you know, and then the Illinois game, which, you know, that would have been a top 10 victory on the road. I mean, you would have basically assured yourself of already being in the tournament had that gone a different way, because I don't know that the committee looks at moral wins. Well, that Nebraska team only lost by 3. No, they just see the L. A lot of them don't dive into the box score or even look at the final score unless it's totally lopsided. So I think going out here with these 3 final road games, you go out, and if you get at least 2 of them, you know, you should be good.
Yeah, I agree, but man.
One at a time.
I'll see it when I believe it. Yeah, we got Bryan coming up. Curious to see what he's working on, because it is kind of in a weird time right now where recruiting is kind of dead.
Well, but I would think that you would start maybe getting a hold of some guys for the 25 and 26 class to try and arrange some non-officials to come watch the spring game.
Sure. Yeah, that's true.
Because that's always been, you know, a huge recruiting tool for us.
Yeah. Christian must be a big Blaze fan. Blaze Cada. I was behind him in line at Panda Express a few weeks ago.
He's a big dude.
No, he ordered quite a bit of food. I was impressed. Yeah, I loved your question about Ramel. Robin didn't give us much.
And maybe he can't, so I didn't mean to put him on the spot, because I've been there and I've watched Ramel warm up. He's in uniform. He's as athletic as anyone on the team. And we never know the whole story.
Right.
But I think, you'll find out more as it goes on.
All right, sit tight.
Five step, one by one, higher and higher step.
Welcome back into the morning hookup. Happy Tuesday. Thank you again to Robin Washut with HuskerOnline.com. We're going to keep the HuskerOnline.com train rolling with Bryan Munson, who is joining the show right now. Bryan, what's going on, man?
Not much. That Robin guy, he's a little needy, he's got a lot of stuff going on right now and a lot of stuff to talk about with that guy.
Now,
Yeah.
Bryan, I know you and I have talked before about as much as I love the 80s, you and I have taken separate paths when it comes to Huey Lewis and the News, and I know you needed one. And so I said, I'm going to I'll pick his song this morning, Will. And we don't hear Jacob's Ladder very often, so I thought that maybe that would warm your heart a little bit.
One of my faves, definitely one of my faves by Huey Lewis and the News. And yeah, I mean, I understand it, man. I understand where things kind of deviate and went wrong for some folks, man. But like I said, it was just that was a group definitely that was kept captivating with the whole MTV generation.
Yeah, Will had even made the comment that he was toying with the idea of going as Huey Lewis for Halloween this upcoming year.
I am. I think.
Oh my goodness!
I think the hair. I'm like halfway there on the hair, Bryan.
I tell you what, you're gonna need to find and put out like a casting call for the sax player. I remember that dude with the really tall, dark, like Blues Brothers kind of sunglasses, and just very unique looking guy, like almost like Rick Ocasek kind of look.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah. Well,
now seeking the news.
I'll call you and Thew for that when that comes to town. Bryan Munson is joining us right now on the show. Bryan, we're kind of at a weird point in recruiting, right? I mean, signing day is wrapped up, and we're kind of getting to this lull. But tell me what it's like for you right now in this time. What are you working on?
Well, so we had our first installment of the in-state tour this last Sunday, and I wrote a column or a summary, I guess, on Sunday night, just kind of summarizing what we saw on Sunday, which was 14 teams, probably over 100 players. I never got the true tally on how many there were that were there. You saw 3 of the top 5 players in the state. We didn't get a chance to see Christian Jones, and had a chance really to kind of absorb what's kind of going on, within the Lincoln regions. And it's always great to kind of use that to level set what's kind of coming at you, for the next 12 months. And it was really another terrific weekend, kind of going through that with everybody. Got a chance to kind of see what Millard South is going to kind of put together. Got a chance, like I said, to meet like with Tyson Terry and Caden Moss, and got to see a couple of like up and coming guys too that were very interesting. Jet Famala being one of those guys. Caprice Keats from Bellevue West. I mean, there's some 2026s, man, that really, really, really have my eye. But this coming weekend, we'll be back in Lincoln. And we'll get a chance to do Lincoln area schools. I believe we're trying to get like Connor Booth from Bishop Newman to come on down. We're going to have some folks in from Kearney. So yeah, so we're really kind of trying to set up and build content to support, the guys that are in state. We also have several official visitors kind of being set for very early official visits, in April. We didn't even see anything get into May last year. Everything was in June. So very different approach what's happening right now. You're seeing maybe like one of the new offers for quarterback coming off the board committing to Kansas State, but Nebraska does have one of those new 4 offers, scheduled for an official visit in April. So the board is kind of coming together, and this is what I've kind of said on the message board on Red Sea Scrolls. It's something that you can kind of go back and take some hints from who showed up in January, but there were a lot of wide receivers that we had confirmed that all of a sudden backed out or weren't part of either one of the 2 weekends in January. I just don't know really what that was all about. Like if they said, just hold off, just come in for an official visit. You don't need to be here for this. Like we'll do things better in April. And it was more of a regional thing, except for Cortez Mills obviously coming in from Florida. And then you got that really interesting news, like with Philip Simpson leaving Lincoln and going to Tallahassee to be part of the Florida State staff. I mean, what does that do to, Nebraska's ability to reach into South Florida? Cortez Mills actually played for Philip Simpson. So does this now put Nebraska at a serious disadvantage to get him to kind of look to coming to Lincoln to play football?
Hey, Brian, I wanted to talk back about Christian Jones because it had come out that he was going to take a visit to Notre Dame, and we got a lot of folks around here like Henny Penny, the sky is falling, an in-state kid is going to visit another school. And if you've ever gone through the recruiting process, any coach will tell you too, they want you to make 100% sure. And I think the only way you do that is, you don't just visit Nebraska, but you see how it compares to other schools. And, and if you get 5 official visits too, why not go and, get the free trip and the free garb? I mean, it only makes sense, but it really put people on alert. Like, and Coach Rule knows that he's going to have to work hard, but the program, he's also confident enough that the program is going to sell itself as well. Wanted to see where he was at, if he was planned on maybe coming down for the spring game. And also, I mean, what do we have as far as confirmed visitors for the spring game as of now?
Yeah. So I would have loved to have had a chance to catch up with Christian Jones this weekend. The good news is that he didn't like stiff us and, decide to just stay home and play PlayStation or whatever. He was out working. He was out throwing the shot. I mean, that dude just never slows down. And I think that, I kind of shared this privately with Sipple this weekend, and I kind of told Sip, I said, I personally feel like Christian Jones is the best player to come out of the state in a long time. I mean, that I think he eclipses Carter Nelson, and I think that's probably gonna put some ears up, really quick in the air to kind of hear that kind of news. I think Christian Jones is tap dancing on a 5-star rating. I don't know of too many guys that look like him, height, weight-wise, run like him, 100-meter guy, play like him. He's an elite national guy. I mean, just point blank. I mean, when I first put on the film of him as a sophomore, it was pretty clear. He had all the tools. It was just a matter of kind of, does he have the drive? Does he have the ability to kind of want to work and perfect all these things? And the quick answer to that so far over the last 2 years has been yes. He's a very hard worker. So, look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I've described Carter Nelson this way. I described Malachi Coleman this way. People are going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable watching these guys take visits. And it's Christian Jones is going to be one of those guys. He is absolutely going to take trips. I think that there were, maybe it was a Tennessee offer, maybe it was something else. There's really an offer that kind of flipped him over from being like a top regional guy to a national guy to like almost like elite. And I think it was probably Tennessee, that really kind of did that for him. And I think that there's going to be several visits that he is going to take. I think the same thing can and will be said about Chase Lofton. I think Chase Lofton at Millard South is going to take several visits, and people, I mean, he jumped into basically being a national recruit when he was offered by OU at summer camp last year. So, I think people really need to get comfortable being uncomfortable watching these two guys go through the process over the next year.
Brian, I was listening to Matt Rule on that College Game Day podcast last week, and he talked a lot about recruiting. You know, he said he loves recruiting, and I didn't put two and two together. He mentioned something about how he wishes he could be on campus when these recruits come in. And I guess I never really thought about that, how, you know, sometimes when these recruits come in for visits, he's not even there.
Yeah, and that's a huge that's a huge miss, because everyone that I speak with that has a chance to sit down and talk to Matt Rule, they are so impressed. They love getting a chance to hear his views and listen to where he kind of thinks things are going. If you run it back a little bit and you think about like what happened with Keona Wilhite, you know, over the last kind of 6 to 8 weeks, you know, from when he was decommitting, getting released from an NIL from an NLI from Washington, to the point where he took his official visit to Nebraska and then really kind of committed to UCLA and then backed off because Chip Kelly was rumored to be leaving. He had that conversation with Matt Rule. He had a conversation with Matt Rule when he was in Lincoln, and Matt Rule, you know, said, "I'm happy here. I don't have any type of desire to go off and do anything else other than be here. I didn't imagine that this could be this great." And that really paid off huge dividends to kind of be there once things kind of fell apart mid-flight, you know, for Keona Wilhite. So yeah, it's a big deal. And I'm sorry, we skipped on and I truncated my last answer before I had a chance to talk about some of the spring game visitors, but there's only like 3 of them right now, but they're big. You have TJ Lateef, 4-star quarterback out of California, Orange, California. Rylan Dillard Allen, who's a 3-star safety out of Phoenix, Arizona, and Keelan Abrams out of DeSoto, Texas. So a Mario Buford friend, fellow defender. There's another guy at DeSoto that I think maybe could be another player that we're talking about here in the coming weeks that could potentially get back up to Nebraska as well for an official visit. So stay tuned on that one.
Hey, Brian, I know we've talked a lot about the last 2 recruiting classes and how big they are. And I mean, I know that it's a little bit tricky to try and think how many guys we're going to take, because I know NIL plays just a weird part now where a guy might be considered a walk-on and get money. But if it's going to be a smaller class, I guess that the coaching staff is probably going to do a little more due diligence and have to be a little bit more choosy. But I'm trying to think in my head what might be some of the positions of emphasis. And the first thing that maybe comes to mind is maybe that linebacker spot this year. And then secondly, I wanted to ask you about the younger Raiola. How old is he, and when does he start to come in maybe the fold of the Hustler class, looking at him?
Yeah, let's start with Dayton. So Dayton Raiola is a 2026 left-handed quarterback. He's gaining some recruiting momentum. Obviously, still has an offer from Nebraska. He is a lot of people have asked the question, you know, what are his plans now that Dylan is in Lincoln? Well, Dayton is staying in Georgia. He is going to be at Buford. So he'll be at the same high school that Dylan was the quarterback for this last fall. And you know, I think that from talking to, again, Sipple over the weekend, we had this conversation on Sunday. Dayton has really grown up. I mean, for the lack of a better term, I mean, he picked up a Nebraska offer, I want to say his freshman year. I'm trying to think back a little ways here, guys. You have to give me a little bit of grace here on either side of that. But I think it was his freshman year, and didn't have, you know, really wasn't it's obviously not a final look at a kid when he's, you know, freshman in high school, you know, going out there and doing his thing, but wasn't a very, you know, overly tall guy, definitely wasn't the size of Dylan. And I've been told, based on, you know, the eyeball test that Steve and Sean had down there at the Poly Bowl in Hawaii, you know, just a few weeks back, that basically Dayton has really grown, and he has really put on some good size, some good height, and is really looking the part. So he's a 2026 guy. When you look at the 2026 class, I think offensive tackle is a very important position for Nebraska to kind of go get multiple players at this year. I think it's a really up year for offensive tackle talent in the region. I think Nebraska's done a really good job kind of bringing in a lot of players over the last year or so that are 2025s that play offensive tackle. I think linebacker is an important position. There's no doubt about it. I think Nebraska's still also trying to find more quality guys to put into the wide receiver room so they can kind of keep away from having to dip into the transfer portal so hard every single year. I know Matt Rule is very key on developing guys as opposed to reaching into the portal, as much as they've had to. And that's obviously a position that they've continually had to do, time and time again. So I think that those three spots are very important for the 2025 class.
Bryan, we appreciate the time as always, man. We're kind of in that point, but we always love catching up with you. There's always stuff to talk to with you, man. We appreciate the time. Enjoy the nice weather, all right?
All right, guys. Talk to you next week.
All right,
Thank
Bryan.
you.
See ya. Bryan Munson with HuskerOnline.com. Follow him on Twitter. Let's take a break. Thew, come back. We'll get to stories we missed, including the NBA All-Star Game. Should it continue? We'll talk about that when we come back.
More next on the Morning Hookup on KFOR.
I wonder why Ernesto wants to know how tall we are.
Might be trying to get a city rec basketball team together and need some front court help.
Christian says, do we have levels to NIL? If my name sucks, but I'm very good looking, do I get paid differently? If I have the likeness of the Michelin Man and it's marketable, can I get mid-dollar? I think a lot of it depends on on-field play, Christian, not looks.
Well, but he's on to something, though. Sight unseen, DeColdest Crawford, who'd never taken a snap, got the NIL based on his name.
That's true. But Christian Hymas, that doesn't sound too marketable. No offense.
They'd find something. I'm sure they'd find something.
Christian, I'm surprised you haven't got like a dart sponsorship yet or something like that. Claire, I think we're going to do Ask Will Anything tomorrow. We might make that a Wednesday segment.
I want to be in here when you try those random foods and about puke in the trash can.
Yeah. Well, that was a one-time thing. I do want to start like a taste test segment where Hooks and I taste weird things that come out. Like the crab rangoon Frenchie. Is that what it is at Amigos?
Well, it's a crab ragoon crispy taco.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, Xavier wanted one of those the other day. I'm like, dude, I don't know if you're going to like that. And it's not the crab. He just likes the ragoon.
Yeah, right.
Like, why don't you just go home and just eat a bucket of cream cheese and we'll call it good?
Christian says he has a Wheaties box sponsorship. He does. Do you know that? Christian's on a Wheaties box.
Really?
Yeah. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right. So, yeah, we're going to do stories we missed coming up. That NBA All-Star Game was a stinker. Probably the worst we've ever seen. People are wondering if it should go away.
Should go away?
We'll discuss that. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about that. But nice weather today. How about that?
Yeah, I might have some takes on that thing.
Mom does not like the idea of a crab rangoon crispy taco.
I don't think it would be much different than an actual crab ragoon because you've got the filling, which is the crab chunks, whether they're real or synthetic, in the cream cheese, and it's deep fat fried. So I don't think it would deviate too far. It seems more Chinese foodish than it does Mexican foodish.
It does, but I think it would work. All right,
but then again, you could deep fat fry a boot and people would eat it,
especially in America. Stay there. Hold on. Welcome back into the Morning Hookup. Happy Tuesday. A few more minutes left in the show. Bill Hooks will be back tomorrow. Thank you to Thew Malone for stepping in as always. Let's do stories we missed. We're going to talk NBA All-Star Game. Should it stick around?
The stories we missed. The Morning Hookup.
Yes, the NBA All-Star game over the weekend. It was All-Star weekend. You had the three-point contest, the dunk contest. And I found it funny because the guy who won the dunk contest, Mac McClung, I think that's how you say his name, he's strictly a G League player, Theo. But every year, the NBA calls him and asks, hey, can you come dunk for us?
Yeah, puts on a show.
But I'm sure he's thinking like, hey, can I get a NBA roster spot? Like, come on now.
Well, he used to be on the Sixers, so.
But I think he's played like 6 games in the NBA.
Right. Because I remember when I was a child that you would tune in to the slam dunk contest and you knew the participants.
Right.
Like you were stoked to watch Dominique Wilkins and Michael Jordan battle it off in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bunch of guys I got to thumb through to see that they're the third string power forward for the Suns or something weird like that. But it's 3-point contest. I mean, it is what it is. But now you got some balls that are worth more than others. I thought that the shootout with Steph and that one gal was great.
Sabrina.
Yeah.
That's always a fun
And
one.
I was sitting there saying, well, you ought to even throw Caitlin Clark in that next year. And of course,
Definitely.
that's what the announcers stole my thunder and said it afterwards as well.
So the All-Star game was
211 to 186.
It was trash. And in the past years, we've seen, guys not really try. I get it. You don't want to get hurt.
Right.
You don't want something like this to ruin your season. So I get it why you're not really trying. But Sunday was probably the worst we've ever seen.
No, he had 104 points by one team at half, and I looked at Xavier. I said, someone's going to put up 200. And they did. You had 397 combined points.
So,
I mean, it's just, it's a joke. I mean, I don't know that there's a lot of incentive. Unlike, in baseball, I mean, granted, there's a lot less. You can still get hurt, a lot less opportunity to get hurt. Those guys play a lot more games during the season.
mm-hmm.
But correct me if I'm wrong, maybe they still do, that the winner of that game, like your league got to have home field advantage for the World Series. And so there was some incentive then for that game.
And that's not a thing anymore. They got rid of that.
But they
a
were
few
doing
seasons
stuff like
ago.
that.
Yeah.
Like there's no incentive for these guys to go out there and risk injury or, there's no defense played. It's just whichever team makes more. It's a glorified game of horse.
And there's talk about deleting it, never playing it again. It's just been around for so long. I just don't think you could ever take it away.
It has.
And we just got to get used to it.
Do some tweaking to make it more competitive or something.
Mm-hmm. Theo, thanks for stepping in
Absolutely.
today, man. Make sure you like Husker Army on Facebook. Great group of Husker talk. Hooks will be back tomorrow. We'll have Henry T. Buchanan on the show. Enjoy the nice weather. We'll see you tomorrow.